Hi, are we live? Okay, great. Welcome everybody. This is the first time we've done this, so apologies if we have a stuttery start. My name is Adrian Jackson. I'm Artistic Director and founder of Cardboard Citizens, and this is the first in a series of currently 4 conversations which we're going to have in this strange time that we're in now, with people across the world who I would describe as theatre of the oppressed pioneers, people who've taken the work in a new direction or invented new aspects to it, and people who have been doing it for quite a long time. And I'm very happy to welcome the first of those. They'll be every week at the same time. In a week's time, we'll be interviewing Barbara Santosh. After that, we'll be interviewing Mohamedou Diol. And finally, in this current series, Jana of Combatants for Peace. Anyway, as we were, I'm very happy to welcome Sanjoy Ganguly, who is a very, very old friend of mine. He and I have been doing Theatre of the Oppressed for almost 30 years, started our companies at about the same time and have worked together on many occasions. Yes, a very warm welcome to Sanjoy Ganguly, who runs a company, leads a company called Jana Sanskriti, which works in rural Bengal. And it classifies itself as a movement. But anyway, better to welcome Sanjoy and for Sanjoy to introduce and describe himself. Welcome, Sanjoy. Are you there?
Yeah.
Hey. Nice to see you, man.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you, Adrian.
Hi, Shima. Nice to see you. Nice to see you both.
Actually, when you are talking about the friendship, Adrian,
yes,
we are going to complete 29 years of our friendship in the next July 2nd week.
We'll have
that
to
will
find
be 29 years. We will complete 29 years.
We'll have to find a way to commemorate it at this strange time, Sanjoy. We'll have to do a commemorative Zoom or something. Anyway, I wanted to say thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us. And I'm going to try and be quite I'm going to try and get as much in as we can in the time, Sanjoy, which might mean sometimes I might interrupt and follow up with a question, because I know already we have a lot of people have a lot of questions, and it's just important to cover as much ground as we can, and there is a lot of ground to cover. So I hope you'll forgive me if I butt in from time to time, but you know me, we're old friends, as we say.
Take it easy.
Thank you, Sanjoy. First of all, I suppose it would be really nice for people to hear in a few words, you describe Jana Sanskriti. What is Jana Sanskriti? Who is Jana Sanskriti?
Jana Sanskriti is a very big family. We have 30 satellite teams functioning in rural Bengal. And there is one coordination team. So including coordination team, we are 31 groups, let's say, that combines the whole Jana Sanskriti. And quickly, if you look at the inception, we were activists, went to the village to promote agricultural workers organization, and then got interested in traditional art, and finally discovered a theater person in me, and that's how Jana Sanskriti started its journey in 1985. So it's already 35 years. So this is why did we go to village? Only because I experienced a cultural monologue inside a Communist Party. I was only asked to listen, to watch, and to carry out the orders. There was no access to any kind of debate discussion, so I felt oppressed. That was perfectly a cultural monologue. A religiosity, there were gods inside the party whom you cannot criticize, they are above criticism. And when I saw the traditional art, there I found even our mythology gods are not beyond criticism, not above criticism. You can criticize even the gods. So actually, I discovered the Brechtian element in my traditional art, which wanted to make people social critic. I started learning traditional art and discovered theater person, and that's how the journey started. So it started from acting to activism. We don't see any line between acting and activism. It's just comes automatically.
But you started very firmly, Sanjoy, as an activist. Your journey is from politics to theatre in
Yeah.
that direction, yes?
So
And
that's why theater and politics does not come separately to me. It's
yes,
theater as politics, which Boal used to say.
and a couple of simple pragmatic things. There are 30 satellite groups, but there is a core group of
Yeah.
how many is your current full-time core group, and you have a dwelling that you have your own theatre. People live locally. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
We are 18 of us. We have actually constituted the core team. We and the core team live in the same campus and share their food in the same kitchen. So we have a collective living at Badu. We have a center, and each core team is responsible to coordinate the activities of the satellite teams. So each one of them is responsible to look after satellite groups. So that is how the core team and satellite team they work together.
And
Whatever
you're
experience,
touring, Sanjoy. You're touring um, once a year, twice a year, for quite a long time. Tell us about the actual theatre work that goes out from Badu, please.
yeah, from Badu actually, we most of the time we live in the villages with our satellite teams, and each satellite team usually perform 3 to 4 performances a month. Sometime in some occasions, the performance number of performance goes up. So you see, on an average, we have 80 to 100 performances a month, including all satellite teams. So each performance, if they take, let's say, 150 people, so in 100 performances, we reach nearly 1 and 1.5 lakhs people every year. Every month, 15,000 people. So in a year, it goes to 1,80,000.
And you go
So
to you return to the same villages time after time, correct,
yeah,
Sanjoy?
because we don't actually withdraw from the villages. The first village we had gone in 1985 is still our operational area, part of our operational area. So there, in those kind of villages, you can see 3 generations watching our forum theater: grandfather, father, and the grandchildren, grandfather, son, and grandchildren. So 3 generations watch our forum theater, and those audience spectators are really, really wonderful spectators. Everyone feels like performing for in front of them because they are all critical thinkers.
And they just a couple more things for people to understand. The satellite groups,
Mhm.
um, do they perform their own pieces which they have devised, or
Yeah,
are those also, do they perform versions which the mother company, as it were? I mean, I know
both.
you have certain shows you have done for a long time, very successful
Yeah.
shows.
Mhm. Yeah, both. Actually, some of the performances devised by the core team is being performed by the satellite groups. They also perform some productions done by core team. Also, they make their own theater,
Mhm.
both. So they can make theater because they know how to make theater.
Mm.
They are with us and trained by us. So they make their theater, and they also, and sometimes some productions like there are plays like Kite Pachali, Where We Stand, Golden Girl. We have performed them for more than how many thousand we don't know. Since
Yeah, that,
91, those
that's that's
plays are still being performed.
that's always interested me, Sanjoy, that quite unusually, perhaps, some
Mm.
of the pieces, I mean, I think I first saw some of the pieces 20 years ago, and you're still,
29 years ago, you saw Golden Girl in
that's,
Paris.
that's right, sorry, I'm shortening the time. Um, but it's interesting, the fact that you are still performing some of those pieces, is that a tribute to the strength of the pieces, or is it about the enduring nature of the issues which you're dealing with?
I think it is both, because you see, as a model, we perform the same play in front of the same audience at least 3 times. Sometimes, in an interval of a month, we perform 5 times, because the moment we find that people are quite interested to talk about it, we just close the forum and go after a month. We start again. So
So,
people watch the play time and again because of its structural beauty. That
so
is very important.
the principle of returning so many times, Sanjoy, in such a short period is people actually prepare interventions in their head for the next time you're coming. Is that how sometimes it works?
We give them the reflection, time for reflection,
Right,
and
right.
sometimes new interventions comes, and the rationality nature of interventions becomes more rational the moment you perform more times, number of times. So rationality changes. I mean, the nature of rationality changes.
Okay.
And also, we use plays for campaign purpose. For example, maybe one play will be performed while cycling from West Bengal to Delhi, 1500 kilometers in 55 days. So we will be performing the plays every day, twice, thrice, we will perform. And when you are entering the new village and new areas, then also we still find the relevance. I mean, if you look at the content, I mean, the issues
And
still exists in new villages.
I have to ask this about, I mean, you know, a lot of your plays deal with uh, sexism, embedded inequalities, and so on. Before we come a little bit to now and how you see the work going forward and what you're doing now, I mean, have you seen any
What you are
progress? Do
going
you
now,
feel?
doing
Have
it
you
now?
seen progress? No, I before that, Sanjoy. Have you seen progress in those issues in your lifetime, in your local
Yeah,
area, or in the nation as a whole?
yeah. Because you see, this there was a very interesting study very recently done by two leading economists called Jyotsna Jalan and the chief development economist of World Bank called her name is Carla Hertz. So they took 2.5 years to study the impact of Janasanskriti's theatre on the women. So they followed this principle of control and treatment villages. So the villages where we are present and the villages where we are not present, we were never present. So they compared the situation of the women in two sectors, and we now have tall claims because it is the study proves that theater can change even the established social norms that were there for ages. We could change the established social norms. So
So
I
I
can
know
give
that,
you
for
some
instance,
examples
you
of the
have one.
studies are there in our website. Anyone can access now.
Yeah, I know you have one. The Amartya Sen, the Nobel Prize-winning
Yeah,
economist, did a
yeah,
study before the one I think you're
yeah,
referencing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
am I
yeah.
correct in saying that that showed that in the villages in which you regularly perform, marriages tend to take place perhaps a couple of years later in life? There's less child
Mm,
marriages. Is that correct? Can you?
mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So
that
now
is
we
a,
can see.
go on,
Now
Sanjay.
we can see that the child marriage does not exist in our old operational areas. So even in the new areas, in the new districts where we address this through theater, now we can see the drastic change. In Purulia, for example, in three years before, the rate of child marriage there was 59%. And the recent study is saying it has come down to 19.56%. So from 59 to 19.56 in 3 years is quite a,
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
that's a very pleasing and absolutely concrete measure of the difference that you're making. Um, so where are you now, Sanjoy? Tell us a little bit. I think a lot of people are interested to know what is happening now, what the company is doing in this period that we're in, and what your thoughts are about the future needs for the work for the company will have to do?
Yeah, this is, you see, I am quite interested to take your time because I have actually noted some points, which is at the same time collected from the history and present we are doing. So, because whatever action we are taking, I was thinking yesterday, those actions they're very local actions,
Mhm.
but intensely global, and every global action is intensely local. So you will find the link between what we are doing and what you all have been doing or can do. So, for example, uh, it's like in theater of the operas also we try to always understand the national global root of a local problems.
Mhm.
So it's always an intellectual journey and not a problem solving solution. It is a space where actors spectators evolve intellectually, which I call aesthetics, not structural beauty. And this aesthetics here is I see as an art of learning. The evolution as an intellectual is an aesthetic journey of life, which Onam Theatre essentially takes care of. So now, one important work we are doing is to take care of our spectators because we have been performing in front of the same spectators, the same families for years. And we usually gift them this intellectual space where they argue, debate, discuss, not to win over each other, but to understand the path, but to understand the road to construct. So these people are always gifted by us the intellectual space. Now we are gifting them food grains because this is
Gifting,
what they need at the moment.
gifting.
Food grain, food.
Okay, right.
So we are carrying paddy, lentils called dals, we call some vegetables, medicines. We have collected some money from friends and we are catering them. We are giving them those foods.
So
Uh,
it's a very practical response at the moment.
Very
And this,
practical response. It reminds me of Brecht, who says first come with a full stomach and then comes the ethics.
yeah,
So
I'm
at this
interested.
point of time,
I'm interested also, Sanjoy, is when you say taking care of the people around you and your communities and the movement, which is Jana Sanskriti. Do you find you've also had to revert more to an information function, sort of right back to the old agitprop days in terms of just, you know, reinforcing, letting people know what is safe and what is not safe and how to take care of themselves? Has that been part of your work in this period as well or not?
yeah, that is actually the media, health professionals, doctors, instructions are reaching in any way because you see the villages we entered in 1985 had no electricity. Now the villages have cable connection in each room. Each
Mhm.
household has smartphones and cable connection. So they get to know the instruction given by health professionals, doctors, local government is also campaigning. So we don't see our role that much into it. Initially, we published some we required some handwritten posters. We wrote some handwritten posters and pasted them everywhere in the villages to see that before you touch the tube well, you wash your hand, and after taking water, wash the part. So but that was minimal. We are actually doing both things simultaneously. One, we are uh, giving them food
Mhm.
which they need. And when I say Brecht told this, the food comes first, I would say my philosopher Vivekananda also said this in 1893 that people have enough of religion, now they need food. And to a starved person, you cannot talk about metaphysics, it's an insult to him. And he said this in 1893 when Brecht was born in 1898, 5 years after he
Yes,
said this.
I think Brecht said
So,
something quite similar, though I can't quite put my finger on it. Do you think that you're in this period now of this very concrete, very practical activism, distributing food. Do you see an end to that? I know that in different parts of the
Yeah,
world.
I don't think in the next 3 months we have decided to reach our spectator in the next 3 months. After 3 months, there will be a collapse in economy. There will be the government has to take care, and our role will probably to talk about what is this development. You see, why don't we have health? So a lot of questions are now coming into the mind of the people.
Mhm,
That is this progress?
mhm. Yeah,
Why is this virus?
yeah.
So naturally, they are questioning the development paradigm, and we have to go with the people to help them to create a space so that they can question this paradigm and achieves a kind of critical thinking around the
So
issues.
in that sense, Sanjoy, you see an opportunity here. Am I right in saying an opportunity to discuss important stuff that has been brought to the fore by this crisis?
Yeah, one thing that is the questions are coming from the reality, from the concrete reality. The questions are coming that we are responsible to address. I mean, we the actors and spectators.
Mhm,
And the other thing is that we are also preparing ourselves in this time when we don't have to go regularly to the people and perform.
mhm,
We
mhm,
don't have to travel. We don't have to tour from village to village, you know, either by walking or by cycling.
mhm.
So now we have time to introspect also. You see, this is also, I would say, we are doing it. Probably you will find a connection. We are, as an artist, for example, activist and artist, I am also going through introspection of many kind. Like if we are a community, if we are a community of actors trying to change the society,
Mhm.
have we evolved as a community? Is there was there elements like competition, comparison, and that resulted into lack of uh, you know lack of compassion?
Mhm.
Did that anyway affect our mind, our perspective, our thoughts? So this is one point of introspection which I like, to address my ego, to address an oppressor in me, and to humanize it. I require this introspection
Mhm.
all the time. I love to call it spirituality, because for me spirituality and politics is the same opposite side of the same coin, because we cannot have milk without its whiteness. So spirituality politics comes together. It has got no relationship with the institution and religion, the bourgeois interpretation of religion. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So this is one thing. And another thing, what we were thinking, that probably the situation will demand new forms, new aesthetics, new structural beauty. So I was looking at the history in, that we have been talking together with Adrian, and we are likely to take a direct a joint production very soon, because anyway it is getting postponed.
Mhm.
We both of us agree that we need to treat classics. We need to take classics to the people. They should not be deprived of it. This time we had, after a good portion of Sedwan, we had Doll's House, for example. And while doing Doll's House, it was a great inspiration from Edmund Craig in 1920, who actually fought against stark realism. And here we have introduced Greek chorus,
Mhm.
traditional songs, image theater, to break the naturalism in Doll's House. But I was thinking while doing it, why why do they live so long, ages after ages? Shakespeare, Ibsen, Sophocles.
Mhm.
Even before 2,500 years, the
Well,
playwright Sophocles was still
that's
alive.
interesting
And
stuff to
they
think
address
about,
they
Sanjoy.
address what I call the illiterate educated and educated illiterate, both class, at the
Mhm.
same time. So probably it is the time to introspect for us that do we need a kind of theater, fact-based scripting play instead of playing the script? Do you need some other things? Do you need to investigate other forms like playback theater, for example? Do we need the do you need to investigate them? So this is the time to
These are really
actually,
interesting
yeah,
questions. Sanjoy, I warned you that I would interrupt because time is short and there are a lot of questions on the side of my screen which I want to come to in a moment. But when you're saying, for instance, looking at playback theatre, are you meaning because you anticipate there will be a lot of trauma to be dealt with in the aftermath of this experience? Is that why you're thinking about playback?
yeah, yeah. I think it has also evolved to cater the need, the same need.
Mm.
So probably we are trying to reach the same goal. So the form only matters. So we should be able to negotiate with other forms in order to enrich, ourselves and our theater in
Absolutely.
general.
I mean, you and I have spoken about, I mean, I shall probably come a little bit later to give you an opportunity to speak about Doll's House, but you and I almost produced a Shakespeare together as a forum
Yeah,
piece, if you
yeah,
remember, Measure for Measure. And I
yeah.
think it's important for people to understand, isn't it, that actually it's a very open form in a kind of way, the theatre of the oppressed. It allows all kinds of theatre to invade it,
Exactly.
just as your own theatre based on a local folk theatre tradition has occupied that space. It's a very porous form, the theatre of the oppressed, and allows us to move forward. I think I should probably start asking some of these questions before there are simply too many to ask. While I'm just choosing one, Sanjoy, can you just reassure us, do you feel that Jana Sanskriti is reasonably safe at this moment? Existentially, does it are you guys surviving? Do you get enough funding to survive this period? Are people able to get through this intact? Because for some companies around the world, obviously, this is actually an existential threat. And for so many people, of course, actual survival looks questionable. How is it for Jana Sanskriti, please?
It is not quite a nice scenario in Jana Sanskrit. We are going through tough financial crisis. But as you know, we probably took a right decision by uh, buying some lands for us, which keeps us paddy throughout the year, some lentils, some vegetables we grow in our garden. So our kitchen is somehow running. All of us can have two full meal from our land. Our land is supporting in that sense. But to maintain such huge activities in such huge operational area, it's not only we are in West Bengal, we are present in through other groups in 12 other states in India. So it requires a lot of money to travel actually. So that way we are in a very tough condition at the moment. But since our kitchen runs and our whole timers, they often go through this kind of crisis. So our lifestyle is also very simple, and we don't always require the same amount of money per month. So that flexibility is there. So whatever we have, we just
Yeah,
divide it
yeah.
within ourselves.
It struck
So
me.
that is one way to combat this. But you see, the funding crisis will come. That we are very sure, because
Mm,
it is the toughest time theater people or artists have ever experienced, even in great during the time of Great Depression,
mm,
35, post Second War. Uh, they had to face problems.
yeah.
But here it is a virus. It is a biological problems. You cannot. You have to maintain a physical distance. We
Mm,
don't call it social distancing.
mhm.
This is the word probably they want, because they have to
Yeah.
alienate people
People are
to.
already re reframing that word and so on. So there's a question immediately which goes to that, which again, I mean, I suspect you don't fully know the answers to many of these questions yet, but it'd be interesting to know where you've got to. Talking about your satellite groups and all your touring, Sandra Viz asks how you think you will be able to motivate and coordinate the activities of the satellite groups now that COVID-19 will make traveling and real-life performances so difficult. Any thoughts on that, Sanjoy?
Yeah. Actually, we are, and I was reading the history, the Federal Theatre Project, which is giving us one good teaching
The
that
Federal Theatre Project in the States after the
in the
Depression.
States,
Yeah,
it continued from 35 to 39. 39 again due to budget cut, it collapsed. But it actually took theatre to the people, connected theatre with social issues with limited material resources and financial resources. That was one of the very important contribution of the lady who actually looked after this Federal Theatre Project.
Yes, I've been thinking and reading about that, and of course that's wonderful cause for optimism. If there was the energy in a government, I don't know how it is around you, to allow that space to happen, it could of course be a great flowering. I mean, the period you're talking of was a period when much work was made, many new communities were reached, and a whole new genre effectively came into being. It would be blissful indeed if there was a drive for that to happen after this. I suppose the simple physical distancing issues put some obstacles in the way of that happening.
Yeah, that can be worked out if we are mentally coming closer to each other. If we are coming socially close to each other, like our food grains, the food grains we are taking to our spectators is not social distancing. We are coming closer. So if we are mentally alive, that mentally believe that it is not social distancing, it is the opposite, we are coming closer, then this physical distance won't matter. Like, for example, we are making masks. Sima will tell you, we are making. So the masks we are making, we will give to each audience. We will surround the place. Usually we don't. And then each one audience will enter with one of our mask and hand sanitizer. So they will sanitize, you wear the mask, sit maintaining a physical distance, and watch the performance of the core team who live together. We are not allowing satellite teams right now to perform. So we are the coordination team who live together in the same campus. We are performing and they will be watching, maintaining it. We will have to compromise with the number of audience. That is true. Because we don't have enough masks. But we haven't bought. We have old clothes. We have given our old shirts and things, and our people are making masks. Sima will show you the sample of the masks, which we will give to the audience.
Is Shima there, Sanjoy?
Sima is coming. Sima was there. She will come.
If she comes, it would be great to hear from her about that, because your audience is a standard audience for you is 150, 200, 300 people, and usually crammed into quite a small space, and there's a great excitement, of course, in people. There's another question which I saw somewhere, and again,
and with the satellite team, with the satellite teams, they are not professional actors actually. Like our core members are professionals; they are full-time theater people. But satellite team members are not full-time. So they will perform when they will have time in the evening, because they have other professions to live. Their livelihoods does not depend on theater. So they will start doing soon after the crisis is over, and you know.
I mean, they are what we would call community theatre groups, effectively, revolving around the incredibly strong core of the central group. There was a question which I'm trying to find, but you sort of brought it up a moment ago. Everybody's interested in our theatre of the oppressed community in what work we can make and what work we can't make in this period. Cardboard Citizens, we've been doing a few experiments, amongst other things, on Zoom and all that. I don't know, have you been doing any of that kind of online work, and do people have any access to that, Sanjoy?
Yeah, actually, for us, this online approach, online action is a strategy to combat this situation. It is a good strategy, and in one hand, it will not satisfy our need to come together. The togetherness, what we want in theater, because unless we keep an eye to our audience, unless we find the living audience in front of us, we can't motivate ourselves. So there is a limitation part as a strategy for the time being. And maybe I was going to propose to you that if we can have a global platform where we will keep our work, and each one of us will see each one's work paying some little money, which can be used to maintain the platform, and we can keep seeing each other's work, and each other's thoughts and ideas can
Well,
flow
one of
around.
the, of course, you and I know very well how fond Augusto was of talking about the two meanings of the word crisis as danger and opportunity. And one of the opportunity sides of this has been the wonderful gatherings that we've already had on Zoom. Some 200 people, I think, Theatre of the Oppressed practitioners from around the world. So maybe this will bring us together. The person who asked that question was Matthew Elliott, and he also wanted to know whether you had any update on Muqtadara, your festival, which is usually in December. Do you expect it to be? Do you know when you think you might be having it again?
We are not still very sure, Matthew, and many of our friends are willing to join Muqtadara. We thought Muqtadara would be big Muqtadara this time, but we are not very sure about the policies taken by our government, visa policy. Right now, the visas, they are not giving any visas to any foreigners. So if that continues, let's say, then we cannot have Muqtada. So we are waiting. We want to wait a couple of months to see, after the lockdown is withdrawn. We want to see the visa policy of the government. Accordingly, we will decide.
And so that's
So it is completely depending
reassuring
on
to people. I'm
government.
sure that you're still thinking about when it can be, and obviously we'll need to keep our eye on those restrictions. For people who haven't been, can I just say it's a wonderful, wonderful festival in a wonderful place with an exceptional team of people, and it's just go. when Sanjoy says it's on again, just go, and it'll be simple as that, and you'll have the theatre time of your life. There was a question from a very old friend of ours, Sanjoy, Ava Hunt, which is about, she's asking what changes you think we will need to make to our Theatre of the Oppressed practice in a COVID-19 world. We've touched on it a little bit, but I suppose what's being asked here, and it's also going through my mind, because I'm thinking, I'm hoping that we will be able to resume some kind of physical workshops in the autumn, as long as we stay apart from each other. But I'm also trying to work out, literally running through all of Augusto's exercises and thinking, well, which of those will work and which won't work. I mean, at least we'll be in one room together, which, as you say, is the essential theatre function, to be sharing a space together. Even if we will have to be at this strange distance from each other. So what are your thoughts about that, Sanjoy, please?
I think one, I have actually explained that to me, introspect about ourselves, our perspective, and to introspect whether our theater form should be, I mean, how can we bring changes in our form? How can we make it more movable but less economic need, with less economic need, with less material and financial support? How can we take our theater I think this is the exercise we need to do at the moment, because you see, thought evolves only when people mingle. So if the people mingle, the thought would evolve, and that is what we want in theater of the oppressed. We want people to evolve as thinkers. So it is not social distancing, it is actually fights alienation, uh, as opposed to social distancing. So we have to now take care of our theater form. Let's say, how can we bring changes? I'm not saying we, like, for example, we will be doing fact-based forum theater, right? We will script play instead of playing the script. So, but what elements that we are probably missing can be added in order to make our theater more provocative for the people to think at the higher level. This is the exercise right now we can do.
So it's fascinating, the analogy you're making there. Of course, we sort of catch thoughts from each other in a space, and that is why we like to be together in a theatre, particularly in a forum space. And of course, sadly, we catch diseases also together from each other. And I'm struck by the last time the theatres were closed in this country was, of course, in Shakespeare's time, and theatres closing is a terrifying prospect. We don't know how long it'll go on in this country. I wanted to know about your gathering of stories. You say you're looking at fact-based forum pieces coming forward. So how are you going about gathering stories which you feel might become the kernel of future plays around the COVID issue?
See, right now, I mentioned that COVID issue is raising a lot of questions directed towards this development paradigm. So inevitably, those questions will come, and we have to address them. Like, for
Towards the
example,
development paradigm, are you saying, Sanjoy?
yeah,
Would you like to explain a little bit
like,
what you mean by that?
for example, is this development which is catering to a section of minority, and the, for example, the migrant workers in India traveling miles after miles by foot or by cycle to reach to their village because they don't have work there. So what is this, that a virus can suddenly destroy everything they had? They have no earning, they have no food, the health infrastructure is beyond imagination. It is absolutely collapsed. And the for example, the climate change is an issue that we must talk about at this point of time. So there are a lot of issues which, do you need a big dam, do you need petrochemicals, do you need to free our food chains from the poisons, for example. So corporates intervention into agriculture, do you want it or not, because this is causing a lot of disease, chronic diseases, sometimes fatal diseases. And for those people, now no hospital is open, because no hospital is ready to admit any patient other than COVID. So this is the situation now. So naturally, is this development? This is a big question. Why don't we have the health? Why don't we have the money? Why do you have to go migrate to other state for work? So these are the questions that are coming, and we are actually trying to think how to address them, how to structure them in a play, taking people's experience, their hardcore experience, hard-earned experience. So we are trying to figure out how can we script a play that can, at this moment, address the reality of this time.
I mean,
And at
am I right in saying Mr. Modi made a very sudden lockdown and a huge amount of people were stranded in different parts of the country? The migrant workers you're talking about were just simply unable, not
yeah,
allowed to.
not
Yeah.
allowed. So for migrant worker, he has a different policy, and for people having means, I mean the industrialist, his favorite industrialist, he has got a different policy. Unfortunately, this government is not, looking after it, the majority population. So this is one thing. The other thing is we don't. For example, the democratic space is shrinking. It is a big task now for the artists to address, because you can't criticize the government. The moment you criticize, you are branded as Naxalite, you are anti-nationals. So it is they will close your funding chains.
You
We
might need
need
to explain Naxalite to people
we
here.
need, for example, Naxalites is the extreme left, those who believe in armed struggle and goes against the state. So if you criticize the government policy, you can be branded as anti-state, and there is a very dangerous law that can take you to the prison without any nothing. No trial will happen. So they can put you into jail without any trial for years. So these are the laws in a democracy can exist. Can it exist in a democracy or not? That is a big question for the artist. And in order to shut our mouth, the government is has come up with a law called a rule called you have to renew your FCRA certificate, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. We need to get a certificate from the Ministry of Home Affairs in order to receive money from foreign countries. So if they don't renew your certificate, then you are not allowed to bring money from foreign countries. So you have to worry about your funding source. So this is how they are controlling the NGOs. So we are in a very undemocratic state undemocratic state, political state. So that also we need to
To
address.
address.
But
I mean, some people on the Irani Kaptani, for instance, has pointed out that, of course, many migrant workers in the UK were stranded and left homeless, and it brings me to the point of how much you see TO as able to act internationally, because some of the problems which you're speaking of, many of the problems are problems we're facing in different versions in countries all over the world. And I suppose it goes back to where we started the conversation about the local and the global. How much realistically we feel TO is a practice which can challenge the shrinkage of the democratic space which you're speaking about internationally, or how much we sort of have to tend our own backyard and work in our own local way. Maybe the two aren't mutually exclusive. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, actually, Irini, I am not astonished to see that in UK the migrant workers are having the same experience, because it is the same neoliberal. I don't know why they call it liberal, because I don't see anything liberal into this. But this neoliberal capitalist, contemporary capitalistic system cannot make migrant worker happy. So, theater of the oppressed, I say it is anti capital in the sense that it allows plurality, it allows debate, discussion, and it democratizes our political system. It wants to democratize our political system. So, theater of the oppressed is anti capital by nature, because capital doesn't allow you to express your thought, and we are at some point we are going to the Nazism, which does not allow you to even think. So in some countries,
Did you
we are
say
not
did you say nudgism or Nazism?
Nazism. I mean, Nazi. You see,
Nudgism. It's a
yeah.
nice, it's a terrifying thought as a political
You
sweep
see, in
even.
essence, it was a Father Batala said to Boal in northeastern Brazil that a fascist cannot allow you to express your thought. A Nazi cannot allow you even to think. So we are actually going from one stage to another stage. So it will happen globally. The democratic space will shrink, and especially when they will have the economic crisis. So that is, I suspect this purposefully they are playing this politics of language, social distancing instead of saying physical distancing. They want us to internalize social distancing so that they find time to repair their economic system, keeping us uh, in a distance from each other. So we have to first negate this idea of distancing. We have to use the online video, online Zoom platform to come closer. And I think the democracy is a global issue. The sinkage, the democratic space is getting restricted. This is a global issue. So we have to act locally to democratize our local situations to our national situations, and that would ultimately impact the global scenario. If it happens to other countries, it will definitely, the wave will hit
I mean,
India, and
you
you know.
you and I have we're sort of entering the last 5 minutes of the time that we
In
have.
here,
So one
I,
second, Sanjoy. So I'm just going to invite our listeners, viewers, if there's another question which we haven't asked, please put it in the chat box, and I'll try to ask it. But in the meantime, speaking about the international movement of the theatre of the oppressed, you and I have seen a number of different manifestations, both in Augusto's lifetime and after his lifetime. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. We are a large group of friends and respectful friends of each other, and sometimes we're more than that. What are your hopes for that? How do you see that going? Are you hopeful about it, really?
yeah, what Adrian has said, we have a lot of not good moment while making an international platform. Boal was very much willing to have an international platform of, but we couldn't make it. We tried in every possible way, but that doesn't mean that it will never happen. So you see, personally, as an artist, when you were saying that what can we do in this difficult situation, I think cultivate your optimism,
Cultivate
and
your
if
optimism.
necessary, romanticize it.
That's a
If
nice,
necessary, romanticize it.
it's a nice variation
Because
on
optimism,
Voltaire. Cultivate your optimism. Il faut cultiver son optimisme. We do have a question about that international
yeah,
work that we're doing from Danny Braverman, who's saying, can we be effective in international exchange without flying? Because
yeah,
again,
yeah. See, it sounds quite irrational because our rationality has a limit, and very often we don't understand this. Even in science, it happened. Newton did not believe that a light is particle as well as wave. For him, it was a superstition, but later on, this metaphysics became physics because science is now acknowledging that light is a particle as well as wave, which Newton didn't believe and discarded it as superstition. Every time in the field of science, in the field of social science, our rationality has a limit. So they are considering this limited rationality. But you see, I think you don't have to fly to be connected, because I am very well connected to Adrian, even though I am not in London at the moment, but I am very well connected. So connection does not need to fly. We can actually find ways. Right now we have discovered Zoom. They have given us the way. You see, whatever they do leaves some good things. What Adrian was saying, Chinese crisis. They do not know how to handle it. They are creating a crisis, but now they have created Zoom, which
okay,
is giving us the benefit. So
Sanjoy,
I think that we can,
we
as
can
community,
overcome
to
it. We
evolve.
can overcome it with the technology. Look,
Yeah,
there's a
and as
flurry of
community, Adrian,
yeah.
I think this is the high time to understand what we could not evolve as a community, and what do we need to evolve as a community. Is also the high time to think internally, because if we resolve this internally, I think this will reflect in the external action.
So
Because
this is
external
a moment
action,
of
we always
opportunity for the TO
external
movement.
action, ignoring the internal side of it.
Yeah,
This is what I have seen in my politics throughout my political days. I had seen this. So let's
Sanjoy,
internal.
we've got three questions which I want to try and cram in a flurry of last minute, really interesting questions. So sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but I just want to get at least one of these questions in. There's a very interesting question from Michaela Martinez Joyce. Is there any parallel with the shift in the meaning of value, the word value? In this country, people have belatedly come to understand and realize that shop workers and National Health Service workers and people who work in care homes are much more valuable than people had previously given them credit for. And one of their causes, small causes for hope, is that perhaps that understanding will abide. What do you think about that question of value, Sanjoy?
I think every work is valuable equally. You see, adding value to any particular pattern of work is a conspiracy against the human society. You see, human society, first of all, the hypothesis, it is not the hypothesis, it is a super science to me that we are one. So we must cultivate the oneness. Very often people ask me, how do you make so many jokers for so many satellite groups? Because my answer is always that I don't depend on the techniques. The techniques and modules cannot make a joker. It can make a good anchor. You know, you can be a radio jockey, you can be an anchor in the television. But to be a joker in theater of the oppressed, you have to cultivate the oneness with your spectators. You have to be respectful. You have to realize the love within. It is not a theoretical decision that I love people. So, first of all, we are one when we practice theater of the opera in front of the audience. We have to cultivate oneness. So, adding value to any form of work, be it doctor's work, be it a work in the street. I mean,
Yeah.
the street cleaner.
Yeah.
I think the work and the experience, education has the same value. I call the people, marginalized people in rural India, illiterate educated, and the city, the educated people are, educated illiterate, because they are educated in their sense and we are educated in our sense. They both can come together and create a good society. We all can enrich, both sectors can enrich from both of us. So this is all about giving and taking, and finding a place where we can find the oneness. So I am completely in party also. There was an intellectual cell. So I used to question, where is this intellectual cell? Do you think the factory workers are not intellectual in their way, in their lives? So this line between intellectual, non-intellectual, you know, educated, uneducated, these lines are fixed.
It's a
So we
completely
have to
false, it's a
you
false,
have to
false
discard
line.
this, not theoretically, but we have to realize this.
Sanjoy, it's been an absolute joy to talk to you, but I'm trying to be a good timekeeper, and I think you've taken us to a rather wonderful place to end, which is about the duty to cultivate the oneness of this moment when we are actually fragmented in the way that we are, when we're so separated, actually almost counterintuitive. This is a period in which we should be coming together and can come together. I think our time is up. Thank you so much for chatting. It was, of course, totally lovely, and you and I will probably continue the conversation very shortly on another medium. And thank you for everybody who came and contributed questions. It's really good to
See how
really
much
good.
mask we are making.
Aha, Shima, show us. Bring it to the camera, please, so we can see it. Okay, left a bit, right a bit, right. You're right a bit. No, that's right. That's right. That looks very beautiful with a local fabric, maybe. Is it, Sanjoy? Yeah. What a wonderful thing. Thank you so much for that. Thanks, Shima. And I'm sorry we didn't get to speak to you at all, really. But next time, I hope so. So I think we should probably close it down now. And if you have enjoyed this conversation, people watching in the big wide world, please come again in a week's time, where I'll be speaking to Barbara Santosh, another great pioneer of the Theatre of the Oppressed, originally from Rio, from Brazil, a leading figure in the CTO Rio, and now based in Berlin, where she leads an organization called Coringa, which is the Portuguese for Joker. So thank you very much indeed, and thank you, Sanjoy, and the applause. And
Adrian, we are waiting for your coming.
I come Muqtadara next time. I'll be there.
Yes.
Yeah, make sure it happens, please. Okay, take care.
Okay,
Ciao.
goodbye.
Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao.